The Galactic Military Academy on Station Kepler-7 was a marvel of advanced civilization. Thousands of species from across the galaxy sent their finest warriors to learn the art of modern combat. Energy weapons, plasma shields, and graviton disruptors lined the training halls like relics in a museum of the future. Among the cadets, humans were still a curiosity, a species barely 2 centuries into faster-than-light travel, stumbling into a cosmos that had been civilized for millennia. Lewis adjusted the strap on his duffel bag as he walked into the advanced weaponry class. The human was tall by most galactic standards, with brown hair and the kind of quiet confidence that came from growing up on a frontier colony world. Beside him, Anna navigated the crowd with practiced ease. She was shorter, with sharp eyes that missed nothing and a quick wit that had gotten them both out of trouble more than once since arriving at the academy. "You really brought it?" Anna whispered, eyeing the long case Lewis carried alongside his standard issue equipment. "Professor Cathera said to bring a weapon we were proficient with." Lewis replied with a slight smile. "I'm proficient with this." The classroom was amphitheater style with holographic displays floating above each station. Their instructor, Professor Cathera, was a Vaxilon, a species that resembled a cross between a mantis and a philosopher. Her forearms moved in elegant patterns as she addressed the class. "Welcome, cadets, to your final practical examination," Cathera announced, her translator rendering her clicks and whistles into perfect galactic standard. "Today you will demonstrate mastery of your chosen weapon system in our combat simulator. The scenario is simple. Eliminate 15 hostile targets in an urban environment while minimizing collateral damage." A Drexian cadet, all scales and swagger, went first. He wielded a plasma rifle that could melt through starship hulls. The simulation began and the Drexian fired bolt after bolt of superheated matter. Buildings exploded. Vehicles vaporized. By the time he finished, he'd eliminated 23 targets and destroyed half the city. The class chittered and hummed their approval at such raw power. Next came a Selkath, using a sonic disruptor that could liquefy internal organs while leaving armor intact. Clean, precise, horrifying. Then a Karathi with a graviton lance that crushed targets into singularities. When Lewis's name was called, a ripple of curiosity spread through the room. Humans were known for their stubbornness and adaptability, but their technology was considered primitive by galactic standards. Lewis opened his case and withdrew his rifle. It was an old Winchester Model 70, a lever action hunting rifle that had belonged to his grandfather. The wood stock was worn smooth from decades of use, and the metal showed the patina of age and careful maintenance. The classroom fell silent. "Cadet Lewis," Cathera's voice carried a note of concern. "That appears to be a kinetic projectile weapon, a chemical-propelled firearm." "Yes, ma'am," Lewis confirmed, working the lever to chamber around. The metallic sound echoed in the quiet room. A Zentari cadet burst into a series of clicks that the translator rendered as derisive laughter. "Is this a joke? We abandoned such primitive weapons 10,000 years ago." "Kinetic weapons are inefficient," added Avorthine, her tentacles writhing in what might have been amusement. "Slow projectiles, limited range, vulnerable to even basic shielding. Why would anyone use such outdated technology?" Anna stepped forward, her voice cutting through the mockery. "Maybe you should wait and see before you judge." Lewis loaded 5 more rounds into the magazine, then stepped up to the simulator platform. The urban environment materialized around him, a perfect replica of a contested colony city. Hostile targets marked in red appeared at various distances and elevations. Some were behind cover. Others moved between buildings. Standard energy shields flickered around each target. The simulation began. Lewis moved like water. Where the other cadets had relied on the overwhelming power of their weapons, Lewis understood something they had forgotten. Precision mattered. The rifle kicked against his shoulder with each shot, and the sharp crack of gunfire, a sound none of the aliens had heard in a combat context before, punctuated each target's elimination. The first target was 600 meters away, visible only as a silhouette in a window. Lewis's shot shattered the window and found its mark. The energy shield sparked but failed to stop the supersonic lead projectile. 1 down. He moved through the simulation with economy of motion, using cover naturally, taking shots that seemed impossible. A target behind a concrete barrier? The round punched through and eliminated the threat. 3 targets in rapid succession exposed for only seconds? Lewis worked the lever action like a musical instrument, each shot finding its mark before the targets could retreat. The alien cadets watched in growing amazement. The energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and laser fire, were useless against simple mass moving at high velocity. The rounds Lewis fired didn't announce themselves with glowing trails or energy signatures. They were nearly invisible until impact. Silent death from directions the targets never expected. At 400 meters, Lewis made a shot that drew gasps from the audience. A moving target, partially obscured, wind factors calculated in his head. The rifle cracked, and the target fell. What stunned the class most was the lack of collateral damage. Where plasma had melted buildings and sonic weapons had shattered glass across entire blocks, Lewis's rounds went exactly where he intended, and nowhere else. 15 targets, 15 shots. Not a single civilian casualty marker triggered. Not a single building damaged beyond his specific targets. The simulation ended. Lewis worked the lever one final time, ensuring the chamber was empty, then lowered the rifle. The classroom was silent for a long moment before Cathara began what could only be described as applause, her forearms clicking together in the Vaxilon gesture of respect extraordinary, she said. Cadet Lewis, please explain your methodology. Lewis shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. Energy weapons are powerful, but they're predictable. Every species in the galaxy uses them, so every species has developed defenses against them. Sometimes the old ways work because nobody remembers to defend against them anymore. Anna grinned, unable to resist, adding, besides, his rifle doesn't need to recharge, doesn't have an energy signature to track, and has been working reliably for 200 years without a single software update. A Karathi cadet spoke up, its voice thoughtful. But the recoil, the manual operation, the limited ammunition capacity, surely these are significant disadvantages. Only if you miss, Lewis replied, and my grandfather taught me not to miss. The Zentari, who had laughed earlier, approached cautiously. May I examine the weapon? Lewis nodded, and soon he was surrounded by alien cadets, all wanting to understand this primitive technology that had outperformed their advanced systems. They marveled at the mechanical simplicity, the lack of electronic components, the brutal efficiency of accelerating mass through chemical expansion. Professor Cathara recorded notes on her datapad. It seems we have fallen into a trap of technological assumption. We believed our advancement meant old methods were obsolete. Cadet Lewis has reminded us that effectiveness matters more than sophistication. As the class filed out, discussing the demonstration in hushed tones, Anna walked alongside Lewis. You know they're going to want to add projectile weapons to the curriculum now, right? Lewis smiled, carefully placing his grandfather's rifle back in its case. Good. Maybe they'll learn what humanity figured out a long time ago. It's not about having the most advanced weapon. It's about having the right weapon and knowing how to use it. Behind them, the galaxy's finest military academy began to reconsider everything it thought it knew about modern warfare. The humans, with their stubborn refusal to abandon what worked, had just taught the oldest lesson in combat. Underestimate your opponent at your peril. Humanity had arrived in the galactic community not with the most powerful technology, but with the wisdom to remember that sometimes the old ways endured for a reason, and